Hello, everyone. I am Israel and I am in charge of problems from Chapter 7, Problem 8A. And this is a cash budget for Bramble Corp. So you have instructions on top of the assignment, and you will need to to pay specific attention to some of the things that are in the instructions. I'll tell you about them as we do it. I already typed in the accounts the I already typed in the name of the receipts that we're having and the disbursements, and also from the financing section, I already typed in borrowings and repayments. Very quickly, the cash budget uh, it has different steps. First, you want to get the beginning cash balance for the month, and then or the period. Then we will add the cash receipts. In this case, we have three. We will add the ones for January, and then we will get the total receipts. Here is the formula. After we do that, you want to get the total cash available, which is gotten from you can get it from the beginning cash balance and then subtracting the total receipts after you and sorry adding the total receipts to the beginning cash balance will give you the total cash available. Then the next step is to subtract the cash disbursements. In this case, we have five disbursements, and you want to add them. That will give you the total disbursements. Here is the formula. And you want to once you're done, you want to subtract the total disbursements from the total cash available that we got in here. That will give you this answer. But first, I'm going to show you how I got all these numbers. Um, then I'll continue showing you that. First, make sure then on the date you use the period and not a specific date. In this case, the period is compounded the by 2 months, January and February. So it is for the 2 months ending February 28, 2017. First of all, the beginning cash balance. Here it says in the company cash balance on January 1st, 2017 is expected to be 47,600. So that's where I got this number from. Now, let's talk about the receipts. Uh, it is important to understand that all the sales and purchases are on account. So we're not going to be using the sales and purchases because they don't reflect cash flow. So we're going to be using the collections from customers instead of sales and payments for purchases instead of purchases. You have that data on the numbers 1 and 2. And other receipts can be found on number 3, which is collection of note receivable on January and sale of securities on February. So I already put all of that in here. So the are in here. So we have the collections from customers for January and February. We got them from number 1. Sale of securities for February, which is 5,100. We got it from number 3. And in here, since the sale was only on February and not on January, you need to put a 0 in there. The assignment requires you to put a 0 on all the blank spaces. Notes receivable. We got notes receivable for January. That's also number 3. The amount is right here, 18,700. So we add all that for January. we add all that for February. Um, what we don't have right now the beginning cash balance for February because we won't get it until we're done with January. So we'll continue on the cash disbursements. We need to to subtract that from the total cash available. But the cash disbursements, where are you gonna get them? First, salaries. You can get them here on top. Salaries, just put them as they are on January and February. That's how I got them and how I got them here. Selling expenses is the same thing. It's right here. Um, Now, administrative expenses is a little bit tricky. The numbers are a little different because the administrative expenses on the chart have included the depreciation for the month. Now, we need to deduct in this sentence we can read, then the depreciation for the month is 1200. So we just subtract 1200 on each month for the administrative expenses, and that's how I got these numbers right here. It's very simple. You just need to pay attention to the instruction. Dividends. The company sold dividends of 13,000 on February. You can see that on number 4 in here. That was on February. So just remember to put a 0 on January. Purchases. Remember, we're not going to use purchases on here because those are on account. We're just gonna get the payments for purchases, which is you have them on for January and for February on number 2. That's how I got these numbers. So now you add all of the disbursements for January. That's how you get the total disbursements for January, and total disbursements for February. You do the same thing. Okay, now here, um, if you pay attention on January, the ending cash balance, and right now we have an excess of available cash, which is of 60,600, and the company has wants to maintain a minimum cash balance of 57,420. 57,420. So this is more than that. So I don't need the company doesn't need to borrow, and we don't know if they have to repay anything. But for now, we're going to leave it on zeros in there because we don't need to borrow to get to that minimum cash balance that the company wants to have. So now we have the ending cash balance for January, and we just put it on February as the beginning cash balance. Now we already have most of the numbers. Just make sure you do the equations and the formulas for the total receipts, total cash available, total disbursements, and excess of available cash of over disbursements. So now here you know right now you have less. The company has less than the minimum that they want to maintain. So now they will have to borrow money. That's what we're going to enter on the borrowing, the amount that we need to get to that minimum, which in this case will be 6,000 and 6,920. That's how you got to the minimum amount. And now you got an ending cash balance that is at the minimum acceptable. So that's how you got this activity done. Obviously, you will have to do a little bit more of work because you will need to get all the names and do the operations on your own. But if you follow the steps, you will be fine. Thanks for watching. Post any questions on the discussion board.